Okay, so the one that's regular chicken broth is high in sodium, which increases your blood pressure and it will increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. So we chose the one with low sodium to decrease those risks.
Those lentils as a relatively inexpensive option that is high in fiber and low in sodium and cholesterol and added sugars. So it will be a great source of fiber as well as protein for our meal.
Okay. As we were looking around looking for some produce, we noticed that it is all very pricey, and the only thing we could afford under our budget was a 99-cent cucumber.
We are making a simplified version of lentil soup with 2 cups of lentils and 8 cups of low sodium chicken broth.
We let the lentil soup cook for about 45 minutes, and we were left with just lentil soup.
The typical vegetable that we would add, but we wanted to make sure to have a micronutrient in there to get all the nutrients needed. So we're adding cucumber.
So this lentil soup with cucumbers that we have here, it might not look extremely appetizing, but it is definitely one of the healthier options that you can make with the low budget that we were required to use. And this may be very difficult for families with young kids to make due to the fact that it takes a lot of time and effort to watch young kids and keep them out of trouble. And making a healthy meal like this definitely does take some time, but in the end it is definitely worth it, even on a low budget, to be able to feed your kids healthy meals.
Cooking this, the smell was very nostalgic for me. Lentil soup is something I've grown up with and it's a very popular fall recipe for my family to make together. But all the wonderful things that go into lentil soup that make it taste so yummy, like onions and celery and a bunch of different spices and all that kind of stuff, we weren't able to afford with our budget of $3.96. So we had to substitute a cucumber, and this lentil soup will for sure not be nearly as tasty as it would be with all of those spices and fresh vegetables, and it made me reflect on how a limited budget can really interfere with making healthy food that tastes good as well, and how you would want to go for the packaged, tastier food that's also cheaper rather than going to the trouble to making something like lentil soup that you can't afford to put all the spices in.
So something I thought about during this process was, like, as we were cooking it, it didn't look too appetizing to me. So I could only imagine maybe like the struggle that parents go through to try to get their children to eat something like this. So, which is what leads me to believe that they rather like buy the like $2 box mac and cheese rather than the $3 more nutritious meal.
So even though there's no meat in this, the lentils have a high source of fiber and protein, and this is a less expensive source rather than buying a chicken breast or something with high fiber and protein and spending more money.
To go further in depth about the meal that we bought and cooked, we spent $3.92, which is within our $3.96 budget range. So obviously it was very difficult finding foods that would stay within that range while being healthful. So we used 8 cups of low sodium chicken broth, which is 80 calories, 16 grams of carbs, 400 milligrams of sodium, 300 milligrams of potassium. We also used two cups of Goya dry lentils, which is 1,280 calories, 232 grams of carbs, 88 grams of protein, 128 milligrams of calcium, 40 grams of fiber, 8 grams of sugar, and 24 milligrams of iron. We also used a full cucumber, which is 45 calories. It has 0.33 grams of fat, 48 milligrams of calcium, 443 milligrams of potassium, 8.4 milligrams of vitamin C, 11 grams of carb, and 2 grams of protein. So to sort of reflect on the meal as a whole, it was 259 grams of carb, which is 94% of the daily recommended value. That is definitely a little more comforting than we expected, because this at least gives a family a chance to all get near the recommended daily value for a family of 3 or 4. It also had 41.5 grams of fiber, which is 150% of the recommended daily value, that also puts a family of 3 or 4 in good position to sort of accumulate the entire recommended daily value of fiber. 90 grams of protein, 0.33 grams of fat, which is a little bit concerning because fats are definitely necessary for the health of a person. 406 milligrams of sodium, and 25 milligrams of iron, which is 140% of the recommended daily value, which, like fiber, that's also very high for one meal for a family of 3 or 4. So that is definitely comforting, because being near the recommended daily value of iron definitely limits the risk of iron deficiency anemia. So the cucumbers they're high in vitamin K. They do have present vitamin B and C, and the lentils have lots of vitamin B. To reflect on this meal as a whole, this was the best option that we could find for one day of shopping, staying within the $3.96 range and in our budget. And we could not imagine doing this for years on end and trying to find meal variability. That must be very difficult, and through what we've learned in this project, we're definitely going to try to reflect our gained knowledge back into the community and help families in need of healthful meals.